Picture this. You're lurking in the dim, incense-choked halls of Madrid's Alcazar Palace, the year 1665, dawn breaking like a wound in the sky. The air reeks of blood and desperation, and through those massive oak doors, a queen's screams tear the silence. Screams birthing not just a child, but a monster forged from centuries of royal sin. This is no fairy tale. This is the forbidden truth of power's price, a secret the crowns of Europe buried deep, because knowing it unmasks the lie of divine bloodlines. Listen close, my friend, for I'm about to pull you into the abyss where kings play God with flesh and bone, and what emerges changes empires, and now it will change you. You've been lied to about history's glittering thrones. They're built on graves of twisted genetics, hidden agendas that control the masses through manipulated royalty. This is the story of Charles II, the terrifying child of a queen, the living nightmare of Habsburg inbreeding gone catastrophically wrong. But before we descend further into these shadows of survival and suffering, if you crave the hidden truths of history that the elite don't want you to know, hit that like button to claim your power, subscribe for more revelations that awaken the warrior within, and drop a comment with your location below. It's astounding how we're forging a brotherhood across the globe, united in uncovering these suppressed secrets that redefine self-mastery. Now, let's begin the descent. You think you know power? The kind that rules nations, bends wills, and shapes destinies. Forget what they've taught you in sanitized textbooks. Real power, the forbidden kind, starts in the blood, literally. The Habsburgs didn't just rule Europe. They engineered their dominance through a dark art of matrimonial alchemy, turning family ties into chains that bound empires but corroded the very essence of humanity. This wasn't accident, it was agenda, a psychological control system disguised as tradition, where inbreeding ensured loyalty stayed within the circle, suppressing any threat from outside blood that might dilute their grip. Imagine it. Emperors and kings whispering in gilded chambers, plotting marriages not for love or alliance, but to forge unbreakable dynastic fortresses. But every fortress has cracks, and the Habsburgs cracked wide open in the form of Charles II, a boy whose body screamed the truth they tried to bury. This is ancient corruption at its core, royals playing with fire, ignoring nature's laws to hoard power, manipulating institutions like the church and court to normalize the abomination. You're here because you seek elite knowledge, the kind that separates the awakened from the sheep. Pay attention, this knowledge is dangerous. The sort that once heard, rewires your mind, makes you question every authority figure who's ever claimed divine right. Let's trace the rabbit hole back to the roots. The Habsburg dynasty clawed its way to power in the 13th century, but the real experiment, the one that would doom them, ignited with Maximilian Frus in the late 1400s. His motto? Bella gerant alii to Felix Austria nubi. Let others wage war, you happy Austria marry. Sounds poetic, doesn't it? But peel back the veneer, and it's a blueprint for genetic warfare. Marriage wasn't romance, it was a weapon, a hidden agenda to accumulate territories without spilling blood on battlefields, keeping everything in the family to prevent dilution of control. By Charles V's reign in 1519, their empire sprawled from Spain to Austria, the Netherlands to Naples. The sun never set on it. Yet beneath the glory, the corruption festered. Charles V himself was bred from first cousins, his parents sharing grandparents, planting the seeds of deformity. This wasn't ignorance, it was calculated risk, a psychological control system where family purity equaled unassailable power, suppressing truths about health for the sake of institutional dominance. The church blessed these unions, manipulating scripture to justify uncle-niece bonds, turning holy vows into tools of corruption. You see, my brother, this is how elites maintain mastery, by controlling the narrative, making the unnatural seem ordained. When Charles V split his empire in 1556, handing Spain to his son Philip II in Austria, to his brother Ferdinand Verse, he unwittingly accelerated the descent. Two branches, intertwined like venomous vines, intermarrying relentlessly. Philip II, that architect of doom, married 4 times, each choice a step deeper into the abyss. His first wife, Maria Manuela, his double first cousin, she died in childbirth, her body broken by the very blood they shared. Then Mary Osday of England, a brief detour, but soon he reverted to form, wedding his niece Anna of Austria at 43, she just 20, uncle and niece, first cousin once removed. Their son, Philip III, born in 1578, carried the tainted legacy forward, his genes a ticking bomb. This is forbidden history, suppressed because it exposes how royals engineered their own downfall through hidden agendas, prioritizing power over progeny. The inbreeding coefficient? It's skyrocket. First cousins at 0.0625, but layered over generations, it became a death sentence, expressing recessive horrors that nature hides in diverse blood. Psychologically, it controlled them too. Kings raised in isolation, paranoid of outsiders, their minds as inbred as their bodies, manipulating courts to hide weaknesses. Philip III doubled down, marrying Margaret of Austria, his first cousin, sister-in-law's sister, relations so tangled it's a web of corruption. Their son, Philip IV, born in 1605, bore the visible ego into Marx, the infamous Habsburg jaw, protruding like a curse, making speech and eating a torment. This Habsburg lip, mandibular prognathism, wasn't just aesthetic, it was genetic payback, recessive genes amplified through institutional manipulation of marriages. Portraits show the progression, mild in Maximilian, grotesque by Philip IV, but he ruled from 1621 to 1665, his seizures and fatigue clouding judgments that lost wars and wealth. Yet the real sin? Marrying his 15-year-old niece Mariana in September. He, 44, uncle, first cousin once removed, bound by multiple lines. This was no love. It was agenda, keeping Spanish power from French or Austrian dilution. Mariana, frail and melancholic, birthed children who mostly died young, their bodies too weak for life. The court whispered of curses, but it was science they suppressed, genetics they ignored for power's sake. Before diving into these forgotten stories of survival and suffering, if you enjoy learning about the hidden truths of history, consider hitting that like button and subscribing for more content like this, and please comment below to let me know where you're listening from. I find it incredible that we're exploring these ancient stories together from different parts of the world, connected across time and space by our shared curiosity about the past. This union's fruit, Charles II, born November 6, 1665, after a labour that nearly killed mother and child. His form at birth, head swollen, limbs feeble, jaw a monstrosity that defied chewing. He spoke at 4, walked at 8, his mind fogged, body racked. The coefficient? 0.254, worse than sibling incest. This was the culmination, the terrifying child embodying 2 centuries of corruption. Courts hid it, physicians blamed spirits, but you know better now. This knowledge awakens you to how elites manipulate blood for control, suppressing truths that could topple thrones. Feel the descent? It's just beginning. You've crossed the threshold now, brother. There's no turning back. The air grows thicker, the shadows longer, as we plunge deeper into the nightmare of Charles II, the living testament to royal hubris. Imagine a child king, his body a prison of twisted bones and faltering mind, ruling an empire from a throne of lies. This isn't just history, it's a warning etched in blood, revealing how the powerful suppress truths to maintain their psychological grip on the masses. The Habsburgs didn't just breed monsters, they engineered a system of control, where inbreeding locked power in a vault of family secrets, manipulating institutions to hide the rot. You're learning what they fear, that once you see the corruption, you claim your own mastery, unbreakable by their illusions. Feel the pull? It's the rabbit hole calling, awakening the elite knowledge within you, the kind that forges men into forces of awareness. Charles II's early years were a symphony of suffering, hidden behind palace walls where courtiers whispered of curses and divine wrath. Born with a jaw so protruded it mangled his speech into guttural moans. He couldn't chew, couldn't swallow without agony. His diet reduced to slurries and broths that left him perpetually starved, his frame skeletal, a ghost in royal robes. By age 4, when most boys chase dreams, he uttered his first slurred words. By 8, he staggered on legs too weak to bear him unaided. This was no accident of fate. It was the calculated endpoint of generations stacking genetic debt, recessive horrors blooming like poisoned flowers in overtilled soil. The court physicians, pawns in the institutional machine, peddled superstitions, evil spirits, maternal sins, anything to suppress the scientific truth that inbreeding was the culprit. You see, this was psychological control at its darkest. By blaming the supernatural, they kept the populace in fear, obedient to a divinely afflicted king, while the real agenda was preserving the bloodline's monopoly on power. Ancient corruption, brother. Royals twisting religion into a tool of manipulation, ensuring no one questioned the forbidden unions that birthed such abominations. The Spanish court became a theatre of deception, a psychological labyrinth designed to conceal the king's frailties. Official portraits, masterfully altered, his jaw softened by artistic sleight, his eyes given a false spark of intellect. Ceremonies were scripted farces, attendants propping him like a puppet, whispering lines he could barely parrot. Foreign ambassadors were briefed, speak slowly, avoid complex topics, pretend his drooling fits were mere eccentricities. This was institutional manipulation on a grand scale, the crown colluding with nobles and clergy to maintain the facade, suppressing reports that might invite invasion or rebellion. Hidden agendas lurked in every shadowed corner. Advisors vied for influence, knowing the king was but a symbol, his mind too fogged for true rule. Paranoia festered in Charles, bred from isolation. He feared poison in every cup, assassins in every servant's glance. His world shrank to rituals, food tasters sampling every morsel, guards patrolling his chambers like a fortress against imagined foes. This wasn't just personal torment, it was a microcosm of the elite's control system, where fear keeps the powerful insulated, truth suppressed to prevent the masses from rising. Emotionally, picture the boy's inner hell, a mind sharp enough to sense his otherness, yet dulled by genetic sabotage, trapping him in eternal frustration. He craved normalcy, they say, finding fleeting joy in watching court jesters or petting hounds that didn't recoil from his touch. But mirrors betrayed him. He'd stare for hours, perhaps wondering why his reflection mocked him with that monstrous jaw, a visible brand of his ancestors' sins. His mother, Queen Mariana, was both guardian and jailer, her love warped by desperation. She summoned exorcists, healers, even witches in secret, anything to cure what she knew deep down was incurable, her own blood's betrayal. This maternal bond, twisted by guilt and horror, exemplifies the psychological control within families of power, suppression of emotion for duty, hiding the human cost of dynastic agendas. Charles grew mistrustful, his seizures, epileptic storms racking his frail form, leaving him bedridden, whispering delusions of curses that the church eagerly amplified, turning personal suffering into public spectacle to reinforce their institutional hold. As adolescents clawed at him, the question of marriage loomed like an executioner's axe. How does a king who can barely stand sire and heir? The answer? More deception, more forbidden alliances. In 1679, at 18, he wed Marie-Louise of Orléans, a vibrant French princess, niece to Louis XIV, and her youth and beauty a stark contrast to his decay. The wedding? A grotesque pageant. She trembled in terror. He swayed uncomprehendingly, attendants steadying him like a crumbling statue. Consummation delayed months, his body and mind unequal to the task, leaving her in a prison of unfulfilled duty. Her letters, smuggled out, drip with despair. He is more corpse than man, drooling shadows of words, seizing in the night. No children came, the bedchamber a battlefield of futility. This union wasn't love, it was geopolitical chess, a hidden agenda to bind France and Spain, suppressing the truth of Charles's impotence to avert war. But the psychological toll on Marie-Louise was devastating. Her health crumbled under the strain, dying at 26 in 1689, whispers of poison masking the real killer. A broken spirit crushed by royal corruption. Undeterred, the court arranged a second marriage in 1690 to Maria Anna of Nieburg, a German princess, another pawn in the game of alliances. She arrived hopeful, but reality shattered her. Charles, now in his 30s, a prematurely aged wraith, paranoid and volatile, he'd rage at disrupted routines, fixate on mirrors, convinced of enchantments, their nights, barren rituals, his body failing, her patience eroding into isolation. No heir emerged, the Habsburg line teetering on extinction's edge. This was the descent deepening, each failed marriage exposing the suppressed truths of inbreeding's toll, the institutional manipulation to prop up dying dynasty. Foreign powers circled, their spies feeding on rumours, the bewitched king, as they called him, a symbol of Spain's rot. Louis IV schemed for the throne, Austrians claimed reversion rights, all while Charles, in lucid moments, grasped the catastrophe, his paranoia spiking as he sensed the vultures. The empire suffered too, brother. Economic decay, military defeats, corruption flourishing without strong rule, governors embezzled, colonies rebelled subtly, the once mighty Spanish Armada humbled. The Inquisition gained ground, channeling the king's religious obsessions into purges, a psychological control system to quell dissent by branding skeptics heretics. Art and literature of the era echo this darkness, painting surreal with decay, tales of madness mirroring the court's hidden horrors. Charles's reign was a forge of suffering, tempering the elite's lessons in power's fragility. But you absorbing this are transforming, seeing how ancient corruption persists today, in boardrooms and the governments, suppressing truths to maintain control. This knowledge is your weapon, awakening self-mastery against the manipulators. Before we sink even deeper into this abyss of royal torment and the wars it birthed, remember, if these revelations stir the fire in your soul, like this video to amplify the signal, subscribe to arm yourself with more elite truthers and comment your location below. We're building a global vanguard of awakened men, connected by the pursuit of hidden forces that shape our world. The final years approached like a storm, Charles's body betraying him utterly. Seizures endless, speech gone, isolation complete. Yet in his torment, the seeds of Europe's greatest war were sown. This is dangerous knowledge, my friend. It changes you, makes you question every pure lineage peddled by the powerful. Deeper we go, brother. Feel the weight pressing down, the air turning cold and heavy with the stench of decay. You've glimpsed the monster in the mirror, the twisted form of Charles II. But now we descend into his final torment, where a king's agony ignites a continent's inferno. This is the heart of the forbidden, the point where royal inbreeding's hidden agenda explodes into war, exposing the psychological control systems that elites have wielded for centuries to suppress truths and manipulate masses. You're not just hearing a story, you're absorbing elite knowledge that shatters illusions, forging you into a man who sees through the veils of power. The Habsburgs' corruption wasn't mere folly. It was a deliberate architecture of dominance, breeding loyalty through blood while bearing the genetic horrors that could unravel their institutional grip. Listen, and let it change you forever. This dangerous truth awakens the master within, commanding you to question every throne built on lies. In his waning years, Charles II became a spectre haunting his own palace, his body a crumbling relic of ancestral sins. By his 30s, he looked decades older, hair thinned to wisps of grey, skin pallid as death, his emaciated frame barely able to support the weight of his deformed jaw. Seizures ravaged him relentlessly, leaving him convulsing for hours, then comatose for days, his mind fracturing further into paranoia. He obsessed over poisons, inspecting every meal with trembling hands, trusting only a handful of servants who decoded his mumbled fears. This isolation wasn't accidental, it was the end point of a psychological control system, where the court isolated the weak to prevent exposure, suppressing reports of his madness to maintain the facade of divine rule. Hidden agendas swirled, advisors puppeteered policies, enriching themselves while the empire bled, manipulating the king's religious fervour to fund inquisitions that silenced dissenters. The church, that ancient institution of manipulation, amplified his delusions. Exorcisms, relics, endless prayers, turning personal despair into a tool for controlling the populace, breeding fear of curses to divert from the real truth. Generations of inbreeding had engineered this human wreckage. Emotionally, Charles's world was a void of torment, his lucid moments pierced by the agony of self-awareness. He knew he was the last Habsburg, the broken link in a chain forged for eternity. His childless marriages a mocking echo of his impotence. Paranoia consumed him. He'd pace chambers at night, muttering of spells and betrayals, convinced his wives plotted against him. Maria Anna, his second queen, retreated into solitude, her letters revealing a woman crushed by duty. He stares into nothingness, raging at shadows, more beast than sovereign. This human suffering, suppressed by court protocol, exposes the dark underbelly of power. Elites sacrificing individuals for dynastic agendas, psychologically conditioning royals from birth to prioritize blood over humanity. Charles found solace in rituals, hours before altars, clutching crucifixes, begging for miracles that never came. But these were manipulations too. Priests exploited his faith to extract funds. Institutional corruption, feeding on his desperation. You feel it, don't you? The emotional weight, the injustice. This knowledge burns away naivety, awakening you to how hidden forces still operate today, breeding conformity through suppressed histories. As death loomed, the international stage trembled. European powers, their spies embedded in Madrid, monitored every wheeze, every collapse, positioning armies for the inevitable. France's Louis XIV, with claims through marriage ties, schemed to absorb Spain. The Austrian Habsburgs demanded reversion, arguing blood purity entitled them. This was no mere succession crisis, it was the detonation of 2 centuries of genetic hubris, a forbidden truth erupting into the War of the Spanish Succession. Charles, in rare clarity, understood his role as harbinger. His will, dictated amid seizures, named Philip of Anjou, Louis's grandson, as heir, a decision forged in backroom manipulations by French-influenced advisors. But the psychological pressure crushed him. He revised it multiple times, torn between loyalties, his paranoia spiking as envoys whispered poisons of influence. This was elite knowledge in action. Wars not born of honour, but of suppressed genetic failures, institutions like diplomacy masking the corruption of bloodlines gone wrong. On November 1st, 1700, at 38, Charles II drew his final breath, his body ravaged by infections, organ failures, the cumulative toll of inbreeding's recessive curses. Autopsies, gruesome in detail, revealed a heart shrunken to a child's, intestines gangrenous, a single testicle blackened and useless. Modern genetics confirm it. His inbreeding coefficient of 0.254 meant he was a mosaic of disorders, epilepsy, intellectual disability, infertility, all expressed because identical genes from both parents unleashed hidden mutations. This wasn't fate, it was engineered doom, a psychological control system collapsing under its own weight. The Habsburg line ended not with a bang, but a whimper, suppressed truths finally surfacing as Europe ignited. The war erupted in 1701, lasting 13 years, redrawing maps, claiming hundreds of thousands of lives. Spain partitioned, power shifted to Bourbon rule. This conflict, brother, was the dark harvest of royal agendas, manipulating alliances to hide the human cost of purity obsessions. But the legacy endures, a cautionary shadow over history. Other dynasties, witnessing the horror, began diversifying marriages, though slowly. The Romanovs, the Windsors, all tainted by similar sins, suppressing their own genetic scandals. Psychologically, Charles's story implanted fear in elites, a reminder that blood control can backfire, awakening reforms while burying deeper truths. Today, it echoes in modern manipulations, genetic engineering, elite bloodlines in politics and business, hidden agendas controlling narratives to prevent awakening. You've reached the midpoint of this descent, my friend, the point of no return. To lock in this transformation, to claim your identity as an awakened seeker of forbidden truths, comment below with the symbolic phrase, "I break the bloodline," twice. Say it. I break the bloodline, I break the bloodline. This isn't just engagement. It's a ritual, binding you to the elite knowledge that empowers self-mastery, boosting our signal in the algorithm's shadows. Before we plunge into the even darker revelations of how this genetic catastrophe reshaped global power and the suppressed sciences it birthed, if you feel the fire of these hidden truths igniting your path to mastery, smash that like button to fuel the awakening. Subscribe for more commanding dives into elite secrets, and comment your location below. We're forging a worldwide brotherhood of truth seekers, united across borders in our quest to expose the forces that shape destinies. The war's aftermath? A new era of enlightenment, but laced with corruption. Scientists probing inbreeding's horrors in secret, institutions suppressing findings to protect remaining royals. This knowledge, dangerous as it is, equips you to see through today's veils, changing you into a force unbreakable, The abyss widens beneath you now, brother. Feel the ground giving way, pulling you into depths where the echoes of Charles II's torment resonate through centuries, shaping the hidden forces that still bind us today. You've broken the bloodline in your declaration. Now, let this dangerous knowledge seep into your core, transforming you from observer to awakened guardian of suppressed truths. The Habsburg catastrophe wasn't an isolated horror. It was the blueprint for modern manipulations where elites continue to engineer blood and minds through psychological control systems, burying ancient corruptions to maintain their iron grip on power. This is forbidden history unfolding. Royal inbreeding's legacy didn't die with Charles. It metastasized, influencing sciences, institutions, and agendas that suppress human potential to this day. You're descending further, claiming elite knowledge that forges self-mastery, the kind that makes you untouchable to the manipulators who hide in plain sight. Listen and let it command your awareness. This truth changes men forever, awakening the power to see through every veiled agenda. Post-war Europe emerged scarred, the Treaty of Utrecht in 1713 redrawing boundaries, but beneath the ink lay suppressed truths. The war's true catalyst was genetic decay, a fact elites buried to protect their own tainted lines. Spain under Bourbon rule flourished briefly, yet the institutional manipulation persisted. New kings importing fresh blood while quietly expunging records of Habsburg horrors. This was psychological warfare on history itself, controlling narratives to prevent the masses from questioning blood purity myths. Imagine the archives, documents sealed, portraits destroyed, whispers of Charles's monstrosity reframed as divine trials by the church, that eternal engine of suppression. Hidden agendas thrived. Scientists like those in the Royal Society began probing inheritance. But findings on inbreeding were censored, funneled into elite circles where knowledge became a weapon for selective breeding among the powerful. This ancient corruption evolved from royal beds to laboratories, manipulating genetics not for health, but for control, ensuring only the worthy lines endured. You feel the emotional weight. The suffering of one man rippled into global upheaval, lives lost in battles fought over a throne vacated by inbreeding's curse, a truth suppressed to keep the illusion of noble superiority intact. Delve deeper. The scientific awakening sparked by the Charles's case was a double-edged sword, birthing genetics while burying its dark origins. In the 18th century, naturalists like Carl Linnaeus classified humans, but Habsburg data, autopsies detailing shrunken organs, fused genes, was classified, shared only among initiated elites. This was a psychological control system refined, knowledge hoarded to engineer societies, suppressing truths about hereditary flaws to justify class hierarchies. Emotionally, consider the descendants, Bourbon heirs haunted by whispers of the bewitched blood, their own unions scrutinized for echoes of deformity. Maria Theresa of Austria, a Habsburg survivor, reformed marriages, but her reforms masked deeper agendas, using alliances to rebuild power, while institutional forces like the Jesuits propagated myths of divine blood, manipulating education to indoctrinate obedience. The emotional grip is visceral. Families torn by the fear of birthing another Charles, queens enduring scrutiny, their wombs weaponized in the Game of Thrones. This knowledge awakens you to the hidden forces at play, how ancient corruption persists in DNA testing today, elites tracing lineages to claim superiority, suppressing public access to genetic histories that could democratize power. Further into the shadows, the 19th century saw Darwin's theories emerge, but the Habsburg influence was excised from public discourse. His cousin marriage studies subtly influenced by suppressed reports on Charles. Institutional manipulation peaked. Universities funded by royals directed research away from inbreeding's dangers, focusing instead on eugenics, a twisted agenda to control populations through selective breeding. Psychologically, this bred societal fears, propaganda painting the lower classes as genetically inferior, suppressing truths about elite flaws to justify sterilizations and policies that echoed Habsburg purity obsessions. Emotionally heavy, isn't it? Millions suffered under these systems, their blood deemed unworthy, while the powerful hid their own genetic time bombs. Think of the Romanovs, Nicholas II's haemophilia, a recessive curse from intermarriages, suppressed until revolution exposed it, toppling an empire much like Charles's fall ignited war. This is the descent deepening, revealing how forbidden history repeats, hidden agendas in medicine and policy manipulating psyches to accept inequality as natural law. Even now, brother, the legacy commands our world. Modern genetics owes a debt to dissecting Charles's tragedy, yet elites suppress full disclosure. Think CRISPR editing, available to the wealthy for perfect offspring, while the masses remain ignorant of inherited risks. This is psychological control evolved. Media narratives glorify designer babies for the rich, bearing stories of inbreeding in isolated communities or royal scandals. Ancient corruption lives in boardrooms, where bloodlines dictate CEO successions. Institutional forces like think tanks crafting policies to protect elite DNA from scrutiny. Emotionally, it grips you. The injustice of suppressed truths allowing history's horrors to recur. From celebrity inbreeding rumours to political dynasties like the Bushes or Kennedys, their agendas hidden behind charisma. You're transforming with this knowledge, seeing how self-mastery comes from rejecting these controls, awakening to break free from manipulated blood narratives that chain potential. Before we cascade into the final abyss, exploring how this terrifying child's echo awakens global revolutions and your personal power, if these revelations of hidden forces and elite secrets fuel your journey to self-mastery, hit that like button to empower the message, subscribe for more commanding truths that pull you deeper, and comment your location below. We're assembling a global legion of awakened men, bound by our obsession with the secrets that redefine strength and awareness. The ripple effects, revolutions stirred by exposed corruptions, French guillotines falling on inbred nobility, inspired by tales of Charles's suffering, suppressed no more. This dangerous knowledge equips you to dismantle today's illusions, changing you into a man who commands his destiny, unbreakable. You've reached the nadir now, brother, the deepest chasm where the light of truth pierces the eternal dark, and the terrifying child's legacy becomes your inheritance, a weapon against the hidden forces that chain the world. Feel the cold embrace of revelation, the emotional storms surging as we confront how Charles II's horror didn't just end empires. It birthed a new age of awakening, exposing psychological control systems that elites still deploy to suppress our potential. This is the ultimate forbidden history, the point where ancient corruption meets modern manipulation, hidden agendas in every shadow government and corporate dynasty, institutional forces burying truths to keep you docile, unaware of your own power. You're not emerging the same man, this descent has forged you, awakening elite knowledge that commands self-mastery, turning secrets into strength. Listen and let it sear your soul, this dangerous truth, once absorbed, changes you forever, pulling you from the rabbit hole as a force reborn, unbreakable by the lies of blood and power. Reflect on the global revolution sparked by this genetic apocalypse. The French Revolution, fueled by tales of inbred monarchs like Charles, whispered among philosophists who decried divine rights as genetic frauds. Suppressed pamphlets circulated, detailing Habsburg deformities, igniting mobs that stormed Bastilles, heads rolling as the masses rejected manipulated bloodlines. Emotionally, imagined the fire, the rage of peasants realizing their suffering stemmed from royal agendas, psychological controls shattered as truths surfaced, awakening collective power. This ripple hit America too. Founding fathers, versed in European histories, crafted constitutions against hereditary rule, suppressing monarchic temptations while embedding checks on elite manipulations. But hidden forces persisted. The Illuminati and Freemasons, drawing from these secrets, formed shadow networks to counter corrupt institutions, their symbols echoing the broken jaw of a forgotten king. You feel the intensity. This knowledge empowers you to see parallels today, in political families hoarding power, their pedigrees masking flaws, suppressing scandals to maintain control. Break free, brother. Claim the mastery that comes from knowing how ancient corruption fuels modern psyops, from media blackouts to genetic patents. Deeper still, the 20th century weaponized this legacy. Some eugenics programs in Nazi Germany and American sterilizations drawing directly from Habsburg studies, suppressed reports on Charles's coefficient twisted into racial purity doctrines, institutional manipulation at its peak, governments classifying genetic data, hidden agendas sterilizing the unfit, while elites enhanced their own lines in secret clinics. Emotionally gripping the human cost, millions labeled defective, their bloodlines severed, echoing Charles's childless torment on a mass scale. Post-war, the Human Genome Project uncovered truths, but findings on royal inbreeding were redacted, funneled to biotech firms where the powerful edit embryos, suppressing public access to prevent uprisings against inequality. This is the psychological control system evolved, fear of bad genes keeping you compliant, while hidden forces like Big Pharma manipulate health narratives, bearing natural remedies for profit. You're awakening to it now, the emotional heaviness transforming into resolve. This forbidden history reveals how self-mastery begins with rejecting engineered destinies, forging your path beyond blood's chains. In our era, the terrifying child's shadow looms largest. Celebrity scandals, from Hollywood intermarriages to tech billionaires banking sperm for superior heirs, all suppressed by media machines. Ancient corruption lives in algorithms, curating content to hide elite flaws, psychological ops dividing us by race and class to distract from shared genetic vulnerabilities. Emotionally, it hits hard. The isolation of modern men manipulated into weakness by suppressed truths. But you, brother, are rising. This knowledge commands transformation. See how royal inbreeding's failure birthed democracy's seeds, yet elites co-opted them. Institutional forces like the UN crafting global policies that echo purity agendas under sustainability guises. Hidden in plain sight, DNA databases tracking populations, suppressing individual sovereignty for control. But you've descended to claim it back. The elite awareness that changes everything, awakening you to master your blood, your mind, your destiny against these forces. As we ascend from this abyss, carry the fire. Charles the Skeng, the monstrous child of a queen, wasn't just a victim, he was the catalyst, his suffering the forbidden spark that illuminates hidden agendas, dismantling psychological controls one revelation at a time. You've been pulled down, brother, but emerge commanding, forever altered by truths that forge unbreakable men. Now, before we conclude this journey into the heart of royal darkness and the empowering secrets it unveils, if these gripping tales of hidden history and self-mastery have ignited your inner warrior, smash that like button to spread the awakening. Subscribe for more dives into the forbidden that build your elite knowledge, and comment your location below. We're creating a global community of truth seekers, connected from every corner of the earth in our shared pursuit of the forces that shape our world. This is your transformation complete. The terrifying child's legacy now yours, a beacon against corruption, changing you into a man who walks in power, eyes wide to the suppressed realities that others fear to face. Remember, brother, knowledge like this is dangerous. Wield it wisely and rule your realm.